I have another one that's kind of a little different, and I've never seen this opinion out there yet, but I really think it should be more prominent. Swamps is really good, for one thing. The personality of the map. A lot of that personality has gone away, and I miss it. I miss it desperately. It actually felt like you were playing on like an outland area where it was you're on the edge of the universe.
Yeah.
Nobody knows you're there. I miss that a lot. That's actually one of my big problems too. Is it lost its personality? There's no
It's just
Outlands
like
feel
a
anymore.
desert almost.
Yeah. Now it has all the fancy buildings and it has all the crazy stuff, and it just kind of feels like a scientist playground. But Swamps, it has the personality. My biggest problem is just the personality. You lost the personality when you started adding all the buildings
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And I understand, like, you kind of have to when you're adding bigger stuff, but I would argue, why don't you add in more of those shantytown buildings? So why don't you add in more of those? Because the more futuristic looking ones, it takes away from like what the map's entire vibe
What the
was.
feel was.
Yeah, it had like a grunge, like, this is a poor area for people who are neglected. They don't know the rest of the world. They're on the edge of the universe, like a Tatooine Star Wars feel, right?
Yeah.
And it lost that because you got rid of Skulltown.
I mean, that's
which
like
was,
the big Skulltown and Thunderdome. It's like
it was like a city built on a dead ass
Yeah.
skeleton, and it
and
was
you
just
replaced
sitting there.
it with a fucking salvage.
Yeah, it was like a
shitty-ass-
salvage
yeah.
yard,
And
but
they
it was
also
developed.
They also did away with slums. They did away with bridges, and they did away with well, you already said Thunderdome.
Slums is actually a big miss.
Slum Lakes. Like,
Yeah.
I
that's,
like Slum Lakes.
I
but
did
I
love Slum
also
Lakes.
really
But
like the new place.
I really like the new place, but as far as the personality of the map went, there were a few places in this map that spoke above anything else. Skulltown, Thunderdome, barren wastelands, slums. It was slums. Like,
Yeah.
that's what it is. And then you had bridges, which was a couple small huts that were surrounding the river, the water down low, and were surrounded by basically barren caves.
Yeah.
It was a very poor, very basically neglected area, but it was amazing for gunfights, gameplay, everything like that was just awesome.
Yeah, and that's kind of where you lose. I think you actually lost a major part of the personality once you lost Bridges, because Bridges was
huge.
like, when you think about a city that is it's poor, or you think about an area that in general, like a developing area, everything goes next to the water.
Yeah.
And you had Bridges right next to the water. You had Slum Lakes right next to the water. You had all these areas. Skulltown was the only one that wasn't, but Skulltown was like a western barren wasteland. You
Yeah.
had like that awesome feel. And you could even the soundtrack behind Skulltown back in the old days, it was something I paid attention to, because you had like this weird like soundtrack in the background when you were playing the game of like distant yells and screams. They even got rid of that. So it's like you don't have that feel that you're alone on this random planet in this random area that nobody will ever know you existed. And I kind of miss that. I miss that feel. I miss having that.